This episode of NSCTV is brought to you by Leonora AAA, Bushrangers Brotherhood, Gilba Project Management, Geelong Firearm Courses, Hunters and Shooters Society of Australia, Ballarat Arms and Military Collectors Society, the Combined Firearms Council of South Australia, Auto Scratch, and Kilsyth Outdoor Store. Welcome to another episode of NSCTV, and thank you to our patron supporters and our sponsors for making this possible. Today we speak with Tim Quilty, a Member of Parliament in Victoria, who's called for a Royal Commission into Victoria Police, including in relation to several matters affecting the firearms registry. It's an interesting interview, so please stay tuned. I've got Tim Quilty MP with me. How are you doing, Tim?
Yeah, good. And thanks a lot for having me on again.
You're no stranger to issues affecting firearm owners, partly because you're a shooter yourself, but also you've had quite a lot to say on matters that affect shooters in Victoria in state parliament. And in fact, we did an interview with you a little while ago, which appears above me. We talked about the accuracy of the firearms database, or lack thereof. Now, since then, you've raised quite a few other issues in Parliament, which culminated in your most recent contribution, which I'll just run through some dot points as to what it contained, because there was an awful lot there, and it all comes back to the firearms registry in Victoria and the government's oversight, or lack of oversight of it. You kicked off by saying that it was time there was a Royal Commission. You said it was the police were susceptible to corruption. You talked about firearms and ammunition going in custody. You gave other examples, which is where senior officers ignored reports from other officers about a punch-up at a gun club where the people concerned were actually close to people in the registry. Mm-hmm. The fact that the registry has been issuing special take-home permits in the security industry that are given to their mates, which actually are contrary to the Firearms Act. You talked about the hotel quarantine fiasco, which I think pretty much everybody in Australia would clearly relate to. You talked about matters relating to former Victorian Police Chief Commissioner Simon Overland, who was accused of certain things relating to an informant, and also landed himself quite a nice job in a Labor-held council area. You also talked about the Premier's ex-Chief of Staff, Brett Curran, who's an Assistant Commissioner who has been involved with the LRD licensing registry in the past. And you also talk about the fact that complaints against police are often referred back to the police, and which just leads to cover up after cover up after cover up. Mm-hmm. So there's not just one or two matters there, Tim. There's quite a significant shopping list. That's quite a big list.
I think there's something rotten in VicPol. We focused a lot on LRD because obviously they're the ones that impact shooters a lot, and there's a lot of very strange things going on in LRD. But even across the police force more generally, there's a lot of stuff gets covered up, a lot of investigating themselves. There are a lot of really close ties between Labor and the senior police officers. If you've been put to me, if you want to get promoted in the police force, you've got to be a Labor Party member, like the public service, like the judiciary in Victoria. And we think there's more than enough evidence to call for a Royal Commission. We had one in Queensland in the 80s or early 90s, the Fitzgerald Royal Commission. They had the Wood Royal Commission in the 90s in New South Wales, both of which cleaned out the police force, found hundreds and hundreds of named officers who were corrupt. Victoria's never had one, and I think we can see it quite clearly. There is a problem. It needs investigation.
Yeah, when you talk about corruption and needs for Royal Commissions, I mean, they're big words to use. And I think most people would be forgiving of certain accusations, partly because sometimes, yes, things might happen that might not be right, or they might be misinterpreted. We might be reading the signs wrong. But when you've got a list of, I don't know how many, there's probably 8 things, there's not, there can't be coincidences there. There is something there that, at the very least, needs explanation by the government. The government needs to be able to account for each and every one of them, simply because there's such a big list.
Exactly. But it seems like the government doesn't have much interest in looking at it at all. I've been jumping up and down about this for 2 or 3 years now, and we get responses from the minister just been throw back, play with the dead bat. If you've got serious allegations, take it to IBAC, but when you take things to IBAC throw it straight back to the police. They investigate yourself.
And change the subject. I think we've seen the responses. I think now they're getting a bit sick and tired of you, and they're not even doing that. But it's strange that they're not even being open-minded about it. And I understand that they're outside the chamber. They're not even talking with you. They're not even coming back to you with this, sort of asking you for more, asking you for evidence, asking you to perhaps have other discussions. Is there any engagement?
No, not really, not at all. I did hear on the ammunition question we asked a few weeks ago. I heard that there was a reopening of the investigation within the police. So that was outside of LRD, just the local branch there, local area. So maybe something did come out of that, but we haven't heard more. But other than that, no, I really had no feedback at all.
And no suggestion that the government is going to announce a Royal Commission. In fact, I think with the election coming up in November, the last thing it would need would be something that would take the lid off.
Well, it's probably too close to the election now to actually have any answers back by the election time. But it's certainly a platform they could go to the election on. We'll go to the election on the platform. Liberal Democrats will run on a Royal Commission into police corruption and government corruption and the links between them.
Okay. And in terms of any coverage of the police, there wouldn't be just the LRD, I take it. There would actually be much broader than the LRD. Yeah,
so LRD is only one section. There's plenty of other areas where there's dodgy stuff going on as well. I think LRD should be taken away from the police and given to civil bureaucracy somewhere instead, like we have in New South Wales. There's no reason that most of the registry and everything else should stay with the police. It's not a police matter. It's just a matter of keeping track of records, which the police are very, very bad at doing, apparently.
The transactions. I mean, like registering your car and getting a license, it's not done by the police. I mean, they're involved. They have a vetting interest. No problem with them because they're the ones who hold the data on people, on offences and things like that. But it's otherwise a civilian role, and also one which would then sit in a more accountable framework.
Definitely.
Police don't seem to want to be accountable.
They don't want to be checked at all. And they're in charge of enforcing. They're also basically got the whole package themselves, and it's not working.
Okay, well, I think on that score, there's probably not a lot more to be said until we hear from either Labor or the opposition for this election. So again, Tim, thank you so much for raising those matters in Parliament for Victorian shooters, and I hope that something comes out of it, even if it gives us a bit more clue as to what we can do. So, Tim Quilty, thank you once again.
Thanks a lot for having me on. And if you want my voice back in Parliament after November, vote for us in the election.
I'm sure we will. Excellent. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of NSCTV, and don't forget to share it with your friends and become a subscriber to our YouTube channel. We'll see you later.